Angie Malone Agency, Cookies at 2, Farmers Insurance, coming to you with another podcast. And I am located in St. Paul, Roseville area. You can find me at angiemaloneagency.com and Farmers Insurance. And I have today with me a guest I had before who is just a great resource, not only for the podcast, but for my agency. This is Jamison. He works at Latuff Brothers in St. Paul. And where can they find you, Jamison?
We're at 880 University Avenue, which is University Avenue in Victoria in St. Paul.
All right. I have used their shop oftentimes, actually. Admittedly, I have youthful drivers, which, yes, do cost more on your insurance plan because they do tend to get in more crashes. But Latuff Brothers did a wonderful job and took care of us. So with that said, it is interesting. There's many coverages to talk about on an auto policy, and it does come into play ages of drivers and so forth. Youthful drivers and those over 70 tend to be rated higher just due to the youthful drivers. It's the inexperience. I'm sure you've run across many. My teenager wrecked my car.
Yes, we have.
So, and as they learn, then things get a little better in your later 20s and 30s and 40s and so forth. You're more experienced, not to drive so fast. Learn to leave a buffer while you're traveling, and then you have slower reaction times as you get older. And believe me, I'm starting to get, I don't see as well these days. My hearing isn't as well. It's called life. So you just have to be more alert on the road. So, and with that said, oftentimes you do end up in a crash. So it comes into play. We're going to touch on a couple things, different coverages for your auto insurance that I go through with my clients. And then in speaking with Jamison, different, who's at fault, who pays for what. And he can kind of play into that piece because they obviously have the end result of that crash. So they can kind of understand, okay, who's going to pay for what. They have to figure out who they're filing with, all that kinds of scenarios.
Absolutely.
So that's a pretty seamless process with Latuff Brothers. It's very nice. Farmers works with Latuff Brothers. You file the claim and, they work on your behalf. And you do end up in a scenario where it's he said, she said.
Yes.
Who's at fault? Have you run across that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the most important thing we see is it is important to have great insurance yourself, have a great insurance agent that really walks you through and makes sure you're protected regardless of the situation.
Right.
Because unfortunately, we do see a lot of people who are hit and run, people who get in accidents with people who don't have insurance. In fact, there's a statistic 1 in 6 drivers on the road today do not have insurance.
So how you cover yourself for that is called uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. So that's on your own policy. So it's very important to have those levels high for yourself. That's what protects you for that 1 person in 6 who bangs you up and your family, and they can't pay for your repairs, your hospital bills. So then your own insurance, Farmers, comes through on those policies to help you through that scenario.
Another situation we see a lot of times is, in fact, this happened to me personally, Angie. I was driving on the freeway. Somebody came up behind me, passed me, and sideswiped along the whole right side of my vehicle.
Oh,
we
scary.
pull over, I call the police. We get in a safe spot, stay in the car. The police come, take the police report. At the time of the accident, the other driver is apologetic. This is the nicest person I've ever met. They're so sorry for
Gonna
hitting
have them
my
over
car.
for dinner.
So I'm thinking, okay,
It's all good.
they've got insurance. They show their insurance card, and I'm thinking, okay, everything's gonna be fine. It's gonna go through their insurance. It's all gonna be covered.
Sure.
Next day, I called their insurance company to file the claim with them, and they say, we talked to our insured, and they said that you were at fault, and we're not going to cover it. So
you're like, okay.
So that's why it's good to...
The warm fuzzies went away.
Thank goodness we had the police report, had the documentation. I had lots of photographs of the accident.
Sure.
And because I'm in the business, I knew to do that. So it's a great tip if you are involved in that situation. Document everything with your cell phone photos. Make sure you do get a police report whenever you can.
Yes.
and get all the documentation you can to protect yourself, because you never know if that other person is going to end up and turn their story around.
Right. You don't really know their scenario. All of a sudden, perhaps they realize they don't have good coverage. And they're like, oh my gosh, I really wrecked that car. So their story may change.
Yeah.
So yes, very important. Take pictures at the scene if possible. Safety first, obviously. Stay in your car if need be. That'll all work out. But again, call the police if you need to and get all that documented. Very good.
Unfortunately, in my case, I had insurance covered. I did have to pay my $500 deductible up front, but that was reimbursed once everything sorted out at the end. I was reimbursed by that other insurance company, and they ended up covering everything at the end. So it is great just to have that peace of mind of having good insurance yourself.
Yes.
Knowing that you never know what's going to happen with the other driver.
Well, and that's what I always say to my clients, too. So we end up in scenarios like that. I will get a call, for example, do I file the claim or should I just file it directly with their insurance because they're at fault? And generally speaking, yes, if you can, file it with the other. But you do have to know, too, you're kind of at their mercy now. When they get it done, what body shop perhaps they want to use, and they're not technically able to do that, but you just don't want to run into more headache, right?
Yep.
So oftentimes it ends up, okay, yes, try and file it, but we're here for you. If you need to, then we file it for you. We're your advocate. We're going to go to bat for you. And like in Jamison's scenario, yes, you will have to pay the deductible up front, but it'll circle back. It'll get resolved, and you'll get your money back. And it's a not-at-fault accident on your record. So all in all, use your agent, use your insurance for your advocacy in a scenario like that. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
So
that's another big thing is, if somebody backs into something, just gets a little fender bender, a lot of times people do ask, should I file a claim or should I just pay it out of pocket? And that's why it's great that, a shop like Latuff Brothers or most shops will offer a free estimate.
Yes.
So feel free to get that estimate, consult with your insurance agent, and kind of see what that cost would be. Is it worth it to file the claim, or would it be best just to pay it out of pocket? Sometimes that's a better option.
Yes.
Because then you don't have to worry about your rates going up or having that claim on the policy.
Yeah. And sometimes, just use the insurance for the bigger accidents, the bigger situations. And, we touched on before, perhaps pursue higher deductibles, and then your premium does go down. Self-insure to a certain extent. Those are all good scenarios for, money management and still keeping the protection in place. So there's many scenarios we can talk about in going through an insurance policy. And that's why it is important to have an agent. And I know you can find a lot of information online, and, it's great that you become intelligent on those scenarios, but it's still very good to have the agent partner with you, not only for the policy in place, but down the road for the advocacy.
Absolutely. So many times we see people who bought the cut rate insurance and they just bought it online themselves. They have state minimums, and then they accidentally hit a $40,000 Mercedes-Benz. Well,
the bumper alone is going to cost a lot of money.
You don't realize that there's, nobody ever thinks that they're going to get in an accident until it happens to them. That's when you're thankful you do have the right insurance. And
yes, because you're just really worried about, is everybody okay? And then you can deal with, okay, also I have good insurance. It's just a car. We'll take care of it, So it's that peace of mind of knowing all the bases are covered. And then you also, there's a lot of other bases too. You may end up at fault in a car crash. It may happen, at some point in our life, it's probably going to happen, so have the good liability in place, make sure you're taking care of the other people. Not only you're taking care of them in that scenario, but then it's not coming back to your personal assets. Once your limits are maxed out, it can start going back into wage garnishment. your assets, even sometimes your retirement savings can be unprotected. So you need to have the proper coverages in place. It can change like that. You hit that patch of ice and life is different, can be different. So
that's the thing too with cars today and all the new technology, and especially the airbags in the cars. Angie, we have this example. We have a customer who had a brand new Toyota.
Okay.
And the airbag went off in the seat, and the seat alone, just to replace that seat, was over $5,000. We haven't even done any body work on it, and just to replace that seat, you're looking at $5,000.
Oh my gosh.
So things add up fast in these modern cars.
Oh wow. I mean, great safety feature.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, but yeah, it's going to cost a little.
Yeah. So we are seeing more and more total loss situations, and
Oh, sure.
it's more common today where it wasn't like that 10, 15 years ago.
Right. We're sharing the road with a lot more cars these days
are.
as well. And not only the more cars, pedestrians, and we have bicyclists and, mopeds, and, and you got people pulling boats. You have people pulling, trailers with motorcycles or ATVs or, all that stuff. We're all sharing the road, have an escape plan while you're driving, so you can minimize crashes and travel at safe speeds. And in the meantime, make sure you're insured properly.
Correct.
So,
great advice.
in a nutshell. So it's great to work with Jamison. Like I said, I've worked with him many times personally with my own vehicles and for my clients. And they pick up the phone when you call, and it's great to have them as a partnership with my agency. And like I say, it's also a great resource. I can run by scenarios with Jamison if you have questions. And then we also can figure out, do you want to file the claim? Like Jamison said, So the son ran the car into the garage door by accident, and he's learning, right? Well, it's going to cost a little bit. Do you want that to end up on your policy? It may hurt you,
Yes.
Or do you want to just self-insure and pay out of pocket? So there's some good resources there that we love to share with you and are available to you. So.
Absolutely.
So as we are embarking on summer here, and we are, everybody's pumped. It's, it's our 3 months of warmth in Minnesota. So a lot of people hit the road for the cabins, and they are pulling the trailers. They're pulling the ATVs and, all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, keep your speed, in check. And I know we're all excited to go to the cabin. Yeah. But I guess one of the biggest things I'm sure you see is, people are getting, it's the stop time, right, with the speed.
Yeah. Well, the summertime, people aren't as worried about, in the wintertime you're slowing down because there's icy roads.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, you have a false sense of security that, oh, the weather's great, the sun is shining, it's a beautiful day, my radio's loud. So in the summertime, you almost let your guard down a little bit.
Right.
And people tend to pick up their speed. They're going over the speed limit. And that's when it's more important than ever. We actually see a huge increase in business in the summer as well.
Okay.
So it's just, making sure you're following the speed limits.
Sure.
Keeping that distance and staying off the phones and paying attention. Any kind of activity that would distract you from driving.
Don't do it.
You're driving.
Yes.
Don't do anything else.
That's your deal. Yeah. You buckle in.
Uh-huh.
You're locked in. Now let's look at the road.
Absolutely, because you are driving. It's
a
huge machine.
It's a machine. Absolutely.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
And people's lives are at stake on the roads. 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. You get an accident at that speed, that's
75, it's scary when you think about it's, if you swerve quick or if your initial reaction is to jam on the brakes, it's going to do something. It's physics.
Yes.
Like my daughter says, it's physics, Mom. Okay. Very smart. So great things, you're going to come into in the summer as well, and all year round, you may come into contact with an animal on the road, right?
Correct.
All those things. You got to keep your eyes peeled,
I was just talking to a gentleman yesterday who I ran into him. Oh, yeah, I used your services. I was out west, and we were in this national park, and a moose came in and hit my car.
Oh,
So, I think we were the first one to fix a moose, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, lots of deer. We see raccoon damage.
Oh.
We see turkeys. I mean, we've seen a huge
Oh,
influx
wow,
of
yeah. We're getting
turkeys
a lot of
that
turkeys lately.
fly in front of cars, and they do some pretty good damage to vehicles.
Wow. Oh, sure.
So be aware of these animals along the side of the road as well.
Right. Again, it's being alert. Then it's not the slam on the brakes and now 3 people ran into you.
Correct.
It's, you're not going so fast. You have a game plan if this does happen. You can prepare quite a bit, mentally, and, even with your posture driving, like you say, 2 hands on the wheel, 2 eyes on the road. Don't be too far away from the gas pedal. Don't be too far away from the brake pedal, because all of a sudden, oh no, I can't you're fumbling with your foot. There's all kinds of healthy tips, for preparedness.
Absolutely.
So it's like you say, it's a machine, and we're humans, and we want everybody to be safe.
And one thing we've seen too, I'm sure you know this being in the insurance industry, if a deer does run in front of you, you do want to try to brake. Do not swerve. It's better to go straight on than to swerve into a ditch. It's more dangerous. You can cause even more damage to your vehicle. And I think there's also insurance repercussions of that if you actually swerve into the ditch versus, a deer hitting you.
Yes, it's a little bit of an interesting scenario there. But yes, even my daughter talked about it because she's in driver's ed, and she said, yes, for a deer, you stop.
Yes.
You don't swerve.
Yes, correct.
So it's a good refresher to actually have a youthful driver because she's keeping me up to date.
Well, they know everything. So,
Exactly.
yes,
Very true. Very
they do.
true.
I remember I knew everything.
Yes. With that said, too, it's good refreshers. We offer discounts with defensive driving. You can take that after the age of 50. So all those things, I'm not opposed to refreshers because, like you say, things are different now. Cars are different, and there are a lot more cars on the road. So if you can be up to date on different practices, the experience has taught the industry over the years. That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
So, well, it was great to see you again, Jamison.
Great seeing you,
and
Angie.
Thank you again for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Appreciate it.
awesome. So another episode, Angie Malone Agency, Cookies at 2 with Jamison from Latuff Brothers, and he can be found in St. Paul on University Avenue, and he will also be linked on my agency website, Angie Malone Agency. Great to see you. Bye.
Bye.